everybody, and welcome back to Deciphering My Experience. My name is Eric, and this is brought to you on the Deciphering.tv network. And in case anybody hasn't heard, hashtag China owns Biden. Yep, it's kind of all the rage. All the kids have been saying it as of late, so feel free to spread it around. Be like all the cool kids. Be in the know. Hashtag China owns Biden. But I have a couple of things that I want to go over with everybody today. Some interesting, fascinating facts that I've been finding just strewn out there on the internet for everybody to pay attention to. But I'm curious if these are articles that you guys have had come across your radar in the past few days or so, because they're a bit out of the ordinary, but certainly quite interesting for what I've been deciphering in my experience, but what also I've been trying to communicate to everybody out there, that there's, definitely some out of the ordinary programs and things going on in the world. So let me pull up an article that I have here, and let's see if I got that right. Here we go. So this one here is a interesting piece. CIA paranormal program finds new life in Utah. That's some good stuff there. Paul Smith's psychic school is located in an industrial park on the outskirts of Cedar City. It could be an accountant's office except for a decal of a pyramid and an all-seeing eye on the door. It's called Remote Viewing Instructional Services, and inside, half a dozen students hailing from Colorado to Canada are practicing before their first session. Remote viewing is a form of extrasensory perception, or ESP, where practitioners learn to describe an object which might be on the other side of the world without using any of their five senses. In Smith's version, a manager gives a viewer an arbitrary number. It represents a target that could be anything from the Eiffel Tower to a terrorist's location, but the student doesn't know what that is. The viewer listens to the number, and then something happens. Even Smith said he doesn't know what exactly. But the students quickly sketch the target, and before them on paper appears whatever impression they received. Interesting, folks, right? Something happens. I teach them how to get that number, and then their subconscious goes out and finds what the target is from that. There's a little hand waving going on here because we don't know exactly how it works. But it does work if you get people up in the right circumstances, he said. Smith learned the technique as a recruit to a CIA program. Bom, 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 bom. While I was in what has become known as the Stargate program, I was an operational remote viewer, which meant that I actually did applied remote viewing projects to try and gain intelligence information and from potential foreign threats, said Smith. Those threats included the Soviet Union, Chinese businesses, and narco traffickers. Smith grew up in a small town in Nevada. He joined the Army as an Arabic linguist and was in intelligence at Fort Meade, Maryland, when he was recruited into Stargate. The program lasted from 1978 to 1995 and cost as much as $20 million, according to declassified documents and former operators. 1995, that puts it right in proximity to some stuff on my timeline. Although Stargate was abandoned by the military, a cottage industry has grown around remote viewing. Some 24 schools offer lessons and services to civilians. You hear that, folks? Train up. Smith's week-long program cost $3,000. He says it's the Cadillac option because of his CIA training. Oh boy, folks, I want to go to that class. Go to deciphering.tv and donate to PayPal and Patreon so I can go to this school, please. My own particular approach is the closest to the original that is actually available out there, said Smith. I'd be willing to try it out. Applying paranormal science. People have recently been using remote viewing for things like financial investments. There's even an app called Remote Viewing Tournament that crowdsources psychic talent to play the market. Well, that's kind of what they were doing back in the day, folks. On-call viewers are hired for everything from business research to archaeological explorations. Tanya Gunnarsson, a healthcare worker from California, signed up for Smith's class to help families find their loved ones. I've had some training with maybe discovering why somebody is deceased and the story behind it when there's an investigation going on. It can be very useful, said Gunnarsson. But for some students, the appeal isn't just the practical applications. Geoffrey Perrault traveled to Smith's classroom from Canada. It shows me our potential as human beings beyond our physical self and beyond our physical surroundings. You can help people. You better yourself. And anything that illustrates and illuminates our human potential is something that really strikes a chord with me, said Perrault. Joseph Baker is a sociologist of East Tennessee State University, where he studies religions, politics, and paranormal subcultures. He said our scientific era can leave a void for some, which explains students' attraction to remote viewing. Yeah, there's a lot of attraction to remote viewing. It's a bit out of the ordinary. I'm amazed at how many folks don't know about it still. Science is useful, but the idea that it's going to take over these things that have previously been the province of religion or the paranormal, it can't fully go all the way there, said Baker. He said mainstream science can't always explain bizarre experiences, and the more science tries, the more some push back. People may be alienated about the cold empirical nature of it all and think, well, that can't explain how I saw my dead relative come to me, said Baker. After all, the paranormal search for explanation and meaning isn't new. Religion doesn't have this stigma at all. It's a cultural distinction between one being normative and one being considered deviant, said Baker. Paul Smith thinks a major lure for his students is self-actualization, the possibility that humans aren't just meat machines. He thinks we are capable of more. Students definitely leave here with a much broader understanding of what human nature is about and what it consists of. The fact that remote viewing is still in use shows there are people searching for answers, even without CIA backing. Very interesting, folks. So that's a recent article on what's going on in the remote viewing community. Apparently, you can still get yourself quite educated in these techniques by folks that were in the programs that the government was funding initially. They've just broadened their horizons. So if the government has them officially shut down and those programs are patented, I think that's why you see all the different banners for which remote viewing operations function under now. But regardless, there's a program that can be followed, a training regimen, let's say, similar to learning how to train oneself to play a guitar. You can learn to function yourself as a remote viewer, and I highly recommend people get interested in that activity. It's just it's a skill set. Imagine it's your sixth sense that nobody told you about. So you've practiced your first five senses. Enjoy playing around with your sixth sense, folks. And then next up, I have, let's see, here we go. Another article we'll jump on to. This one here is one of my favorite facilities. This one here, I'm not going to read this entire one. It's a bit verbose, I guess you would say, and long-winded maybe. But it's physicists transform pure energy into matter and antimatter. A new study published in Physical Review Letters presents evidence for the creation of matter and antimatter from energy. You hear that, folks? From energy, specifically light particles, photons. In doing so, it offers a splendidly concrete example of the world's most famous equation, E equals mc squared. The equation derived by Einstein dictates how energy, E, is equivalent to mass, m, times the speed of light, c squared. In the study, physicists at the Relativistic Heavy Ion Collider, also known as RHIC, part of the Department of Energy's Brookhaven National Laboratory, were able to turn light particles, which are energy, into pairs of electrons and positrons, which are matter, matter being that which has mass. To be precise, positrons are antimatter, but antimatter follows the same energy-mass equivalence. The researchers were able to generate the matter-antimatter pairs by utilizing beams of gold ions. They took atoms of gold, stripped away all their electrons to make them positively charged ions, and then shot the ions past each other at ultra-relativistic speeds of 99.995% the speed of light, or roughly 186,000 miles per second. The ions create a strong magnetic field which rotates around them. This magnetic field interacts with the perpendicular, which I've always told folks, don't forget, transformation happens at 90 degrees, so I find it interesting in this experiment that this is being clarified. This magnetic field, as they stated earlier, interacts with the perpendicular electric field, and packets of the resulting electromagnetic field are what we call photons or light. As the ions travel through the particle accelerator, they are accompanied by clouds of these photons. This is very interesting stuff. This is, again, Brookhaven, Department of Energy. This is CIA Central. This is where Wardenclyffe is across the street. This was where Shoreham, the nuclear power plant, was at. And this is the facility where a lot of my former clients that oftentimes gifted me stacks of books told me that they worked out at Brookhaven and that they worked at the light source, was what they were telling me decades ago. They worked at the light source. So this is what the light source is up to as of late. And now they're just making matter and antimatter out of energy, and it has to do with being in a vacuum. This research provides deeper insight into vacuums, their interactions with light, and the relationship between energy and matter. With new, powerful technology, we can confirm or deny predictions of the past and present, slowly continuing our journeys to understand and appreciate the universe that makes up us and everything we know. Yep, folks, now they know that they can do things in a vacuum, and they can cross different types of beams of radiation, and they can get wild phenomena occurring. But that's what the CIA does under the shadow of the Department of Energy. So thought you guys might get a kick out of that one. Creating all kinds of new science. Everybody says you can't argue science nowadays, right? Fair enough. But I have a little bit more evidence to show you that I might find interesting. Everybody knows that I talk about Antarctica and debunking some of the spiels that have been put out there, the misinformation or disinformation. But here's some proof. I've said before that there is no actual ban on going to Antarctica. It's a play on words, it's semantics, and I'm going to show you a wonderful video of a flight landing at the South Pole Station. Pay very close attention to the words that they're using. You're going to get a kick out of this.
Equivalent of 15,000 feet above sea level. Rudy especially is finding breathing hard in the thin air. Scott administers oxygen.
They're coming into pole.
Slowly and uncomfortably, we draw nearer to the pole.
South Pole, 58 Juliet Hotel. Do you copy? Over. 58 Juliet Hotel, South Pole. Roger. We're about 15 minutes out inbound. How's your weather holding? I have a couple of pieces of information for you. When you land on the skiway, you'll see a number 9 marker and recommend to pull off well off the runway and park the plane there.
Directions to land.
I'll copy. Yeah, you're coming in 5 square there. Roger that, and I've got one more little piece of information here.
One more little piece of information there. After they just gave them directions on where to go post-landing, on where to park that plane. Get ready for the next info.
There is no certified runway or airfield available, and the U.S. government cannot authorize a landing. How come? Roger, we copy that. Okay, have a good landing.
So we're brought down to Earth.
Did you catch that, folks? So it's basically you are allowed to land, but not allowed to land. It's the weirdest thing in Antarctica that you can just, you know, you can fly a plane there. You can get in control. Yeah, I'm sorry. You can get in contact with air traffic control. That's the frequency. You call the tower. The tower tells you where to park your airplane when you do land. Then they inform you that there's no method for you to land, that there's no skiway, even though there's a parking place next to the skiway. But you're not authorized to come in for a landing and park right on the side of the skiway, as they acknowledge you're going to do it anyway. So that's really what's going on. It's just playing with words. It's semantics. Oh, don't park your boat here. You're not authorized. Oh, don't fly your plane here. You're not authorized. But yet they can't turn you away. So book the flight, book the boat, do whatever you want to do. If you folks are interested in going to Antarctica, go for it. Try it out. If you don't have the money, if you're not rich, if you're not like that's the actual only limit to exposure to Antarctica is the depths of your pockets. So if you're not wealthy and you would like to get into the Antarctic circles, check out the United States Antarctic Program. You can go to the National Science Foundation website and find out who the hiring contractors are, and you can go in like the blue-collar folks like I did. So there's always a way, folks. There's always a door to the truth. We'll just put it that way. But I have another interesting article that I'm going to pull up here that is Antarctica based as well. So let's see what we got here. The Antarctic sea ice. This is another fun topic for me. The whole global warming and what's going on in the world and what's going on in Antarctica is something that I've been speaking out for at least a decade now. And I've been telling folks that everything's fine and getting colder and there's plenty of sea ice, but nobody wants to listen to me. So here's an article from August 25th, 2021. Just 2 years ago, mainstream media outlets declared that sea ice at South Pole was melting at an astonishing rate. As recently pointed out by NoTrickZone.com, German national daily Süddeutsche Zeitung reported in June 2019 that Antarctic sea ice had shrunk 1.8 million square kilometers, writing, "The massive disappearance of ice is astonishing." And while the reporting was technically factual, it has proven to be yet more AGW driving obfuscation and cherry-picking rather than well-founded indications of a concerning climatic trend. And now, in 2021, as the ice sharply rebounds, these same MSN outlets have fallen silent, which is speaking volumes. The climate ambulance chasing MSM have stopped reporting on the state of the ice across the southern hemisphere, and it's clear to see why. Sea ice at the South Pole has rebounded in 2020 and 2021 to the levels of some 3 decades ago. Rebounded. That word is growth, folks. That word is growth. And that's what I've been trying to express to people. Everybody likes to talk about how ice recedes and at what rate it recedes. What they don't like to discuss with you is the rate at which it grows. They want to make you think that they are directly proportional, that if it's receding and receding and receding, and it takes all this time, they don't want you to know that it can actually grow very rapidly. So therefore, the recession then becomes less of a concern. I'll just put it that way. Moreover, the trend of the past 40 plus years, the satellite era, remains one of significant growth of approximately 1% per decade, folks. That's a solid fact right there that they've been trying to hide from you. I've been trying to speak this truth. Hear that loud and clear. 1% per decade over the past 40 years. That's 4 decades, folks. So we are on solid growth in Antarctica. You've been getting lied to. In 2021, Antarctic sea ice is actually tracking well above the multi-decadal average shown below. It is the doomsday scenario that has disappeared, not the ice. If you take a look at this graph right here, the gray section here is Antarctica in the summer season and the extent of its ice, so to say. And then the white area being the ice accumulation for the winter season. So this is the amount of ice that comes and goes seasonally in Antarctica. And everybody's flipping out about, these little glaciers that are popping off the edges here as they come and go. But as the stats are showing, they're growing at a noticeable rate for quite some time. The NSIDC website is temporarily down, meaning I can't share with you August 2021's impressive data. However, looking at the above graphics for June, that magenta line, this one here, folks, that's the overall average of that time period from 81 to 2010, currently exceeding it. However, looking at the above graphic for June, that magenta line running around the edges of the Antarctic ice sheet is the 1981 to 2010 median ice age, clear for all to see that this year's extent is riding comfortably above the norm. The Antarctic rebound of the past 2 years shows that there are still a host of natural drivers that remain unknown, writes De Calzon. It appears that oceanic cycles such ENSO, SAM, or the Indian Ocean, such as, I don't know what they're getting at on those acronyms, or the Indian Ocean play major roles on Antarctic sea ice variability, not linearly increasing CO2. So, folks, that's it right there. That's what I've been saying for quite some time. This is not an issue from linearly increasing CO2. There are a host of other natural drivers that remain unknown. Classic disinformation technique. Researchers are in agreement that the decline in Antarctic sea ice from 2016 to 2019 is due to natural causes. Obviously, this is not a good topic for the Süddeutsche who prefer not to report on the recovery. Not informing the public about the most recent developments, but instead leaving them with a false impression based on carefully cherry-picked data from 2 years prior is a classic disinformation technique that has long been perfected by the activist media. Oh boy. That is unfortunately the way of the world that we are at right now, is that disinformation seems to be rampant and the truth is just unfortunately nowhere to be found. I just hate to say it, folks. It's the way of the world. But there is one place that is still a beacon of light in the darkness for truth contemporarily, and that is deciphering.tv. So I would ask everybody if you could just please like, subscribe, and share, and go to deciphering.tv, subscribe there. It doesn't cost anything. It just puts you on a email list that if I ever get wiped out from any of these other platforms, I can just simply shoot out an email to everybody, let everybody know where I'm at. I'm not harassing everybody with all kinds of information or things like that. It's just currently it's a place where people can find me. They know they can find me. Deciphering TV is where it's at. There's going to be all kinds of stuff has been getting dropped on there as of late. Great interviews, great conversations with folks. I will be speaking with Ryder Lee later on this week. I believe it's going to be 10 o'clock Alaska time on Thursday, and he has some great info that he's got from a download, I believe, and I look forward to talking to him about that. And I will I'll let everybody know what else is going on as fast as I can figure it out. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and I hope you have an excellent day. My name is Eric. This is Deciphering My Experience. Have an excellent day.